Okay, now that we kind of have how this is gonna go, I'm gonna start going a little bit faster, okay? So keep up. Tier 2, number 12, Thor. Thor is cool. It has a lot of great world building. It introduces us to one of the lesser known characters in the mainstream perspective of the Marvel Universe, which is Thor. The things that I think the movie does really well, though, are mainly Loki. Tom Hiddleston, he's the best. He's so good as Loki, and this movie gave us him. And for that, it deserves to be in tier 2. It's at the bottom because I still think, even though Chris Hemsworth over time proved to be kind of the perfect Thor, I think in this movie he's just kind of at this point. He's not bad by any terms, but he's just not my favorite thing. Like some of the other actors are just like the perfect character and personification of that person. When Thor first came out, I really didn't feel that about Chris Hemsworth, but it's still good. It's not my favorite movie, but it's number 12. Number 11, Ant-Man. So Ant-Man's kind of weird. It's weird because I really like this movie, and it shouldn't work as well as it does. It's not the classic Ant-Man that fans of the comics are used to. It's not Hank Pym, it's Scott Lang. And even though Scott Lang is obviously from the comics, the classic version of Ant-Man is Henry Pym. And since it's not Hank Pym as Ant-Man, it took some audience like, okay, what's this movie gonna be like? And even though we got Hank Pym as, you know, the older Ant-Man played by Michael Douglas in the movie, Paul Rudd proved to be a great choice, and I think the movie's really funny, really cool, has some amazing visuals, and I think the ending of the movie, the last showdown between him and Yellow Jacket, is one of the most innovative in the MCU as a whole. So I give that a GME moment. So, number 11, Ant-Man. Number 10, Doctor Strange. Now the same thing could be said for Ant-Man, which I'm about to say for Doctor Strange, and that's that I think the movies are really good. I enjoy them. I think they're great movies. I think they're cool interpretations and picturesque versions of these characters that we've always wanted to see, and I think Benedict Cumberbatch is a great Doctor Strange. At the same time, though, the thing that kind of loses it for me is the fact that I'm just not a giant Doctor Strange fan from the comics. I know some people are, and because of that, obviously you probably rate his movie a little bit higher than I do, but since there's some other characters in the MCU, and thus from the Marvel comics themselves, that I'm just more of a fan of personally, Doctor Strange ends up falling at number 10 because, again, even though I thought the movie's very, very, very well done, I do have some issues with it. I think the pacing's a little weird at times. I think some of the characters just, you know, don't come off as cool as they could be. Having said that, to piggyback off of my comment on Ant-Man, this one is even more so. I think the ending of Doctor Strange and how he defeats Dormammu is awesome. It's, you know, so unique, not just in the MCU, but in terms of any superhero movie. It's such a clever, cool way to see your character really come up with an innovative way to take down the bad guy that you haven't seen before. So for that, I give it a GME award, and it also places it at number 10. And also the special effects. I mean, the special effects in this movie are crazy. They're crazy cool. Number 9, Captain America, the First Avenger. Confession time. Captain America is my favorite MCU character. Chris Evans as Captain America, I love it. I think he's amazing. I think Captain America as a character is more difficult to bring to the screen and have people love as much as they do. He kind of suffers from that perfect Superman kind of personality problem where he's like the beacon and pillar of truth and justice in the American way. And because of that, so easily he can become really boring, but he doesn't. He's awesome. Can't even find a pulse. And not only does Chris Evans himself just imbue Captain America and be everything you've ever envisioned Captain America being like, the story and the way it's told in this movie hit a lot of strong moments, 2 of which deserve awards. One being Captain America standing up to a bully in an alley and grabbing a trash can lid and using it as a shield. It's perfect. It's so simple, and it's perfect. It gives you exactly what you think Captain America would be like. And that's not even the best Captain America moment in this movie. My personal favorite Captain America moment in this movie that again just nails him as a character so concisely is when they throw that fake grenade and he just dives on top of it, thinking he's gonna sacrifice himself just to save the others around him. That's Captain America. That's why this movie is awesome. After all those pros though, there are some cons. The villain's good, but it's not great. And I think this movie, especially when compared to the other Captain America entries, really suffers from a noticeable lack of good action. The action in this movie just isn't great. It's, you know, it's entertaining. It's not awful, but definitely by other MCU standards, it falls short. So, Captain America comes in at number 9. Here's a 2 for 1, number 8 and number 7, Spider-Man Homecoming and Age of Ultron. Now, the reason I list them at the same time is honestly, any day of the week, I'll probably give you a different answer between which one is my number 8 pick and which one is my number 7. I like both of these movies a lot. Now, I know lots of you are probably like, why do you have Age of Ultron so high? Because again, for some reason, lots of people don't like Age of Ultron. And I get it, Age of Ultron is not as good as the first Avengers. It's not, I agree. Having said that, it has a ton of GME moments. All the Avengers gathered around at a party trying to lift Thor's hammer? What more could you want? I mean, besides the Hulkbuster versus Hulk throwdown, which is great. It's everything you would want that fight to be. It's got super cool action, it has super funny little quippy dialogue in it, and it's just awesome. And the ending of the movie, I know it's very similar to the first Avengers. It's the Avengers versus a vast army, and some of it, yes, is repetitive, but at the same time, it's still some of the coolest superhero action out there. And one specific highlight in the end of that movie is when Vision, Iron Man, and Thor are all blasting Ultron with their lightning laser beams, and he's deteriorating, and it's just like from the page of a comic book, and it's so cool. Now, Age of Ultron definitely has some problems. Some of the pacing is weird, some of the things characters do at different times, Thor, are strange, and they feel out of place. So, I understand all the complaints, but to make that lower the movie so much, in my mind, is ridiculous. It has so many other cool moments that just make it awesome still. So, I put it up this high. I understand if you disagree with me, but again, that's why the tier system is good. Because if you disagree that it's not one of the best MCU movies, or even top tier 2, and you have it at bottom tier 2, again, I don't disagree with you that much. The discrepancy between tier 2 seed 1 and the bottom seed isn't that far in my mind. That's why I think this system is a good system to have. Spider-Man Homecoming, I also just love. I think it is the perfect Peter Parker. It allows Peter Parker to really be a kid and be in a world full of other superheroes, because one of the problems that the other Spider-Man movies have is that he's the only hero that's out there. And because of that, it's hard to really think of him just as being a kid, because he has all these powers that no one else has. But when you have Spider-Man as a superhero with even all of his impressive powers next to Iron Man's more powerful than Spider-Man is. And Iron Man's an adult, so it makes Spider-Man look like a kid. Still though, I love Spider-Man Homecoming. I think it's great. I still do think it has some pacing issues though. It kind of has 2 second acts in the middle, but even with that said, I think it has a lot of great moments. I think the villain is awesome. Michael Keaton, you know, is great. I hope he comes back for another movie. And Tom Holland, he did it. He's the perfect Spider-Man. So Spider-Man Homecoming, Age of Ultron, completely interchangeable for their positioning in my mind. So I'm just gonna, as of now, put Spider-Man at 8, Age of Ultron at 7, but I might switch it by the end of this video. The last thing I have to mention though is how last week I mentioned how everyone in my family is a fan of the MCU and Marvel superheroes in general, but I kind of left out my mom, and she was mad. She is just as much a fan as the rest of us, and she deserves all the credit for going with us to see all these movies and enjoying them just as much as anyone else. So Mom, you deserve a special shout out. Thanks for all you do, and thanks for being a fan of the MCU with the rest of us.